Hi, folks, and welcome back to MMA Talking Heads, the video magazine show where we discuss all things mixed martial arts related. I'm Jason Probst, and with me is my co-host, the esteemed Ian Parker. Ian, how are you doing today?
I'm good, sir. How's it going?
Good, good. I heard your, now tell the fans a little bit, you got the playoff beard going on here.
Yeah, don't, sorry fans. I do work for the Florida Panthers on the side of doing this show. So we do have the playoff beard. It's the first time in 11 years we're in the playoffs. So the chance I think I actually could possibly even grow a beard is a whole other situation. But we're tied up in the series, heading over to New Jersey tomorrow. So hopefully we can go up 2-1.
Well, hopefully your guys will keep winning, so by the end of the playoffs, you'll have like a Court McGee thing going on.
Oh my God, I don't even know if that's possible. This is actually already 2 weeks of not shaving. I look like a man-child right now. I don't even know if I could grow anything more than this. It's pretty even, which I'm happy about, but if I get to a Court McGee situation, I don't even know.
That'll be like a dynasty.
It doesn't look good on him, so I can't really see it look good on me, but we'll see what happens.
Hey, to each his own. And, like we said, we want to round up all the things going on in the MMA world. First thing we want to touch on, Ian, is this whole Alistair Overeem situation with UFC 146. A couple weeks ago, after the random drug test in Nevada, Overeem pops positive for, I believe, a 14-to-1 testosterone ratio.
Just a little bit over.
Just a little bit over, like kind of like your granddad, just had a little bit too much testosterone.
Sure.
Apparently, when Overeem put on the 40 pounds in the past few years since his light heavyweight days, it was a little bit more than the horse meat he always claimed that he ate. So what is the situation with this, the scramble to replace him, and what's going on with his legal team? Update our folks on that.
All right. Well, right now it looks like within the next month you're going to see Overeem definitely appeal his whatever you want to call it right now. There's got to be a reason why Dana White has not announced a replacement yet.
Exactly.
And I truly think I think they found a loophole. One of his lawyers, if that's who it really is, made a statement on one of the MMA blogs saying that the whole situation of why Alistair is not guilty is simply because he was not licensed in Nevada at the time. Therefore, it is not in their jurisdiction to pop him with a random drug test. Now, policy's policy, rules are rules. If that's the case and he found that loophole, great. I don't think it's going to make anything better in regards to the fans. I don't think people are going to believe it. I think it's going to suck because of all the other fighters, guys like Chael Sonnen, who people want to see who got popped for a year. People that love guys like Chris Lieben.
Right.
Although it was painkillers and then steroids, whatever the case may be. Overeem should be punished. It doesn't matter if it's a jurisdiction thing or not. I really don't feel like someone like Dos Santos, who's played the game the right way, he climbed up the ladder, had no shortcuts like Brock Lesnar. He literally fought all the way from the bottom and worked his way all the way to the top, and he did it in devastating fashion. I honestly was really looking forward to this fight. If this fight still goes on, I hope Dos Santos smashes Overeem.
Agreed.
Just because of the whole situation. If Overeem has been cheating, Alistair, shame on you. I mean, look, none of us are really stupid. The guy looks like Zangief from Street Fighter. All right, you can't be that big, that shredded from 205. I mean, go YouTube the fight where he fights Liddell. He fights Tucker Bell at 205. He's a twig.
That was like pre-puberty Overeem.
Oh man, he was still very talented, and he was still very well rounded. But now, there's not an ounce of fat on the guy. He's larger than life. He's a god, and it's no secret. No one's shocked by this. But if there is a legal loophole and he gets out, I still want to see the fight. If somehow, some way, the legal system prevails in our favor, in the fans' favor, then Overeem should get suspended for a year. I wouldn't be shocked if Dana White fired him. I really wouldn't be shocked. These guys have to know that something's coming. There's no way that Overeem, come on, 14-to-1. That is not even. I can't even believe someone's alive with that ratio. It's embarrassing. The whole, like Kenny Florian, I don't know if you saw when he spoke, he went off on PEDs, and it's a really sensitive subject with anyone who's a professional athlete that does not use them.
Well, I think there's, yeah. Well, no, and just to cut in, I think you make the important point because you remember Dos Santos in his Pride days. He was, 6'4", 6'5", 205, and it wasn't like he was soft then. He was still a big guy. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Say he was walking around at 230 pounds and cutting down at 205.
Maybe. You're being generous.
I'm being generous. He's in like Forrest Griffin territory. The guy still put on 30 to 35 pounds of solid steel. It wasn't like he moved up a weight class and got doughy. If anything, he's more defined at 260 plus pounds. And I think it's very interesting. see what Dana White would do. I also think it's interesting in terms of the sort of the lawyerese and the loophole. I think this is basically, not to go on for a rant here, but this is kind of the problem with this country. As Shakespeare said, shoot the lawyers first or something like that. Nick Diaz's lawyer is using a similar track for his marijuana defense. He's saying something like he tested positive for the marijuana metabolites as
Correct.
opposed to the marijuana and
Correct.
rules or something. And I think it just leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth when fighters break the rules and then lawyer up and get around it. So I think I think it's a big fan boost for Dos Santos if nothing else.
Well, correct. I mean, the whole thing, not to contradict, I think you're absolutely right, and your point holds a lot of water. The only thing is this, though. You can't fault guys for going out and getting the best lawyers. Look at all these NFL players and NBA players that get themselves in situations all the time. I mean, someone like Brandon Marshall has stabbed someone, punched a woman, been DUI'd, all this stuff, and he's not seen an hour of jail. Hasn't seen more than a day. These guys, I don't blame them for getting the lawyers. The Nick Diaz situation is a little bit different. I don't know if marijuana really helps you in fighting.
Right.
I don't smoke. I'm against drugs altogether. I think PEDs, I think steroids is absolutely cheating. Nick Diaz, I kind of hope he wins that one because I would hate to see someone like him out over something like that because he does have a medical use for it, whatever the case may be. But for Alistair Overeem, there's no excuse. You are a professional. You're considered a top 3 heavyweight in the world. Act like it. If you are doing steroids, man, you had enough time to get clean. I really hope, look, there's no question that he is. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physician. But if he does get through the loophole and it does work out the way it's supposed to, and he does have that fight, I think you're right. The positive thing is Dos Santos will have more of a fan situation. He'll get more popular. And if he wins, that just double. I mean, if somehow he loses, that will be an embarrassment. But I got Dos Santos all the way by knockout in the first round.
Yeah, and and I thought it brought up an interesting situation.
Steroids or no steroids?
Steroids or no steroids. Hey, listen, I thought it brought up an interesting situation. December 2010, I was at the California State Athletic Commission hearing for Chael Sonnen after he popped positive for testosterone. And the thing is literally minutes before the fight, when he had the come to Jesus talk with the Athletic Commission, he told them he'd been doing TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, that they didn't know about or something. And imagine the chaos that would have ensued if he'd beaten Anderson Silva. They would have had to vacate the title. So if there's ever another reason to root against a guy that's not playing by the rules, it's the fact that the chaos it creates, especially in a championship situation. So I think it's interesting, whatever they do. And frankly, I would be surprised if Overeem lawyers his way into this one. I just think it's a lose-lose situation for the UFC. But if we are talking about substitutes, I believe Overeem has a hearing coming up. They've kind of expedited it on the agenda with the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Who would you like to see as a substitute? Because Dana White's kind of drawn some tight boundaries around this, saying that Mir Velasquez is still going to happen on the card. Who do you throw in there against Dos Santos?
Okay, well, you're gonna have to cut me off if I go on a rant because this is another situation. I'm all about the dream. I'm all about the dream matchups. Look, I think Dana White. I love Dana White. I think the guy is obviously phenomenal at what he does. Look what he did for the UFC. I do think he's wrong for making the announcement that Frank Mir and Cain Velasquez will stay on. If they're going to do a replacement, you got to do it with the guy who deserves it. Right now, Frank Mir would have to be the backup plan.
Agreed.
I think it'd be too soon for Cain to jump back into a rematch. He lost to Dos Santos. It really almost has been a year. I think it's been pretty close to a year. Fighting Frank Mir I even thought fighting Frank Mir was a little generous to give to him right off the bat. I think you got to go with Frank Mir for the case. He's won 3 in a row. He's done it he's finished at all 3.
He's been a champ before.
He's been a champ before, and he's been the UFC go-to guy with the whole Brock Lesnar situation. He came in and won, then he took the beating. He fought Congo, who was a gatekeeper, who's always a gatekeeper. There's been a big thing on Twitter, the hunt for, the rally for Mark Hunt.
The rally for Mark Hunt.
I think it's funny. Do I think it'd be a really fun matchup if it actually was truly a stand-up fight? Yeah, I think it'd be fun because Mark Hunt's got great hands. Does Mark Hunt really deserve a title shot? Come on, no way. No. And I think he's a cool guy. I think he's the man, but not a chance. If you got to go with Frank Mir. If it's not Mir and it's not Mark Hunt, I really hope they don't bring in Fabrizio Werdum. I've heard rumors of that. That would be terrible. He's coming off an embarrassing loss to Overeem. And if some way, somehow they bring in Fedor. Now, here's the thing.
There's a thought.
Would that be interesting? Yes. But do you really give someone who's been nothing but a pain in the ass with the UFC for the last 3 years a title shot after he just beat Satoshi Ishii and Jeff Monson? I mean, I just can't justify that. So
you got to remember Fedor's management are Russians, and that's the end of that
Oh,
conversation.
yeah, they're terrible.
You might as well be dealing with completely irrational people. Although that is interesting with assuming Vadim Finkelstein and Fedor's cadre of handlers didn't have anything to do with it. But the interesting thing I like about a Mark Hunt match is outside of a couple takedowns he shot on Shane Carwin in the third round of a fight he was dominating, I can't really remember Dos Santos really ever trying for a takedown against anybody except
Yeah, but you know what? You know what though?
He's
That's
got
the
great
thing
grappling though.
Yeah, no one knows what Dos Santos is like off his back. Is everyone forgetting who he trains with?
Right.
He trains with Sin Silva. He trains with Nogueras. He does not have to go to his back because he hasn't had to.
Right.
You know, and when he has with Carwin, he got back up, and Carwin's a very good wrestler, one of the bigger guys the heavyweight division's ever had. Mark Hunt, would it be fun? Sure. Is he deserving of it? No. If it was my choice, it would be Frank Mir. All right, if you want to make something exciting, put Fedor in against Kane. All right, if you want to really throw it in, and then in June when Doom comes back, have him fight Shane Carwin. That's how you shake up the heavyweight division. I think if you do something like that, it'd be a lot of fun. The only other thing that would be a shocker to the whole MMA world is if John Jones smokes Rashad Evans, comes out clean, and then he wants to fight Junior Dos Santos, and you do them as a title fight. If you really want to sell tickets and get real crazy, because right now, if it's not Mir or Kane, I don't know, or Hunt, I don't know who you really go with other than you pull the fight.
No, and see, the important thing that people need to realize is, the Velasquez Dos Santos, it was the big debut for the debut on Fox. It ended in, 61 seconds. It was kind of a bore. It was over too quick. But you can build towards a rematch, but the reason you don't throw Velasquez in now is because that's a huge rematch if you build Velasquez up. Kane, or Mir, is worth the short-term risk. I mean, you need somebody in there. Mir is a known commodity. He probably loses, might even get blown out, but he could also win. But you don't sacrifice that huge money match down the road. And that's the problem you have in a division. You only have so many blue-chip guys to challenge for the title.
Correct. You don't want to lose all the marketing, all the build-up to another truly big heavyweight card. But let me tell you something, though. If Frank Mir does step in, I wouldn't really count him out. Because you know what?
Really?
We don't really know Dos Santos' jiu-jitsu ability. We only hear about it from the Nogueira brothers and from Anderson. But you know what? If there's another guy who's going to match him in jiu-jitsu, who better in the heavyweight division right now than Frank Mir outside of Fabrizio Werdum, who, is one of the bigger heavyweight, jiu-jitsu guys. Right. So if they're going to do it the right way, it's got to be Mir. If you want to shake this thing up and get crazy, you do Mir versus Dos Santos. By the way, I'm sorry I'm ranting. This is like one of the most fun topics that's come up in the last 2 years. All right. You do Mir versus Dos Santos. You bump up Bigfoot to fight Kane. You do Mark Hunt versus Roy Nelson. All right. And then Stefan Struve, I don't know, have him fight someone on a different card.
Bring Tim Sylvia in.
Yeah, you know what? Tim Sylvia versus Stefan Struve, you know what? You have two guys at 6'11". They're going to stand and bang. If Tim Sylvia beats Stefan Struve, let him back in. I don't really see the harm, the foul letting Tim Sylvia back in to do a fight like that on short notice. Let him earn his stripes.
Absolutely.
There you have it. It's a new heavyweight card. I'm your new matchmaker.
Absolutely. And, and I think in that lineup you have checked off every box. You've maximized every opportunity given the variables there. So obviously we're going to keep a close eye on UFC 146, whatever happens the overeem situation. Now we wanted to switch gears and cover the UFC on Fuel 2 this weekend. In Sweden, Alexander Gustafsson taking a pretty clear-cut decision over Thiago Silva. I thought there was maybe a little bit too much hype in terms of the commentary and Gustafsson's all this and that. I thought he got a decent win over a guy that is coming off of steroids. Which is always a negative for a guy's performance. Anytime they get off the juice, there's always that drop-off. Fighting in his home country.
Yeah. Did nobody see the movie The Program? Did nobody see that movie?
Exactly.
Jeez, look Latimer. All right, sorry, continue.
No, exactly. I was thinking of The Program this weekend. And the thing is I thought it was a good win for a 205-pound prospect, but I still can't get the visual of Gustafsson just getting schooled by Phil Davis off my mind. Is that fair or unfair?
Okay. Oh, man, this is really, this can go either way. Here's what I'm thinking. Number one, I think the comparison to John Jones couldn't be any far off. I think Gustafsson, because he's young, because he's tall, because he has evolved since the Phil Davis fight, and you could tell this was a very, very ideal matchup for him. You had a guy, like you said, coming off steroids, coming off a very tough back injury, and a 15-month layoff to a guy whose confidence is high. I'm reading interviews that Forrest Griffin said no one wants to get in that cage with Gustafsson. He's one of those guys who's just mauling people right now, not to be corny because of his nickname.
Right.
But here's the thing. Gustafsson was impressive in his win. Do I think it was over the top amazing? No. Did he do what he was supposed to do? Absolutely. Was it a dominating unanimous decision? Sure. Look at Thiago Silva's face. Where do you go from here is really the question. Is he next in line for a title shot? Hell no.
No.
Is he next to is he fighting, getting ahead of Dan Henderson or even remotely close? No. A good fight for Gustafsson. You got 3 people you could put him up with. Personally, I think Ryan Bader. With Bader coming off the win against Rampage, I think Gustafsson. You have 2 young prospects who both took losses. One to Phil Davis, one to John Jones. Both have bounced back. That would be a good fight. If not Ryan Bader, you have Shogun. That would be a very fun stand-up fight. And you still have Machida. Machida's still there. Now, I'm hearing Machida Shogun 3 could potentially happen. Both guys coming off of murder via John Jones. But I think Gustafsson versus Bader makes complete sense. Outside of that, I don't really know who else you go with for Gustafsson. If you want, he came out pretty clean. I don't think he had any injuries. So I think him versus Bader on a main card as like the second fight, not co-main event, would really then both those guys out. Do I think he's top 5? He's borderline. He's there. He's right there. Thiago Silva's no joke. And Silva didn't really look tired. He just said it. He couldn't find his distance. He couldn't get used to that really unorthodox style. And I'm assuming Gustafsson had to have gotten better. He's been training with Phil Davis since the loss. So,
right.
It's not that his ground game is bad. Just when you go up against a wrestler like Davis, sometimes you just get outclassed. I would love to see Gustafsson fight Phil Davis and see if he can keep that fight standing, but not because they're teammates. Who the hell knows?
Well, I think the interesting thing is especially, in the light heavyweight division, I think we're all, with the emergence of John Jones, that's one thing I was just really sensitive to. I don't remember if it was Gold or Joe, and I normally, am a big fan of their commentary. Any comparison to John Jones as Gustafsson is just, to me, was a little bit jumping the gun. John Jones.
So it's really, really, really premature. You know what it is? They see a guy with his length. They see what the problem is this. And again, I don't mean to cut you off. Just we haven't had an episode in 3 weeks, and I've been starving for this.
Right. Me too.
Jones was another guy like Dos Santos who really did it the right way. Okay, I think the UFC could not wait any longer once Rashad got hurt and Jones just destroyed Bader. It was the right thing. He, again, really took it step by step by step. Let Gustafsson then do the same thing and earn his way to the top. John Jones fought Bader, and after he fought Bader, he got his fight against, after Bader was his fight. I think Gustafsson needs 1 or 2 more fights. I think he needs to fight a Bader and then maybe fight, I don't want to say a Rampage because I think Rampage is just not, that's just bad matchup for Rampage. I think, let him fight a Bader. If he gets by Bader, let him fight a Shogun Machida. If he wins that, give him a title shot.
And I think Bader is a really...
I don't see him beating a Dan Henderson right now.
No, and I think Bader is a good measuring stick, especially for a guy like Gustafsson, because Gustafsson is always going to have what I call the European deficit, the wrestling.
Sure.
And if he can't get past Bader, then there's no point even talking about him against Jones. But speaking of which, we wanted to move on to this weekend's card. I think I've only seen about 850 commercials about it.
That's it?
UFC 145, Jones against Evans, Bad Blood. Does John Jones borrow lawn tools and not return them? Things like that. All sorts of claims.
That's a good one.
Right. I put that in my preview, so I'm stealing from myself.
You got a coin.
Right, but is this a feasible matchup? I see Jones running away with this one against Rashad Evans. I don't think Rashad Evans has the wrestling. I don't think he has the reach. I think he does have the speed and the power to maybe turn the fight and create an opening somewhere. But what does Rashad bring to the table that Machida, Hua, Jackson, and Bader didn't in Jones's great 2011?
There's maybe 3 answers I could think of. One, because he trained with the guy he's trained with him more than he hasn't trained with him. I don't think there's any tricks that John Jones is going to bring that we haven't seen yet or that Rashad hasn't seen. Do I think Rashad's going to be overly confident, like, I used to toss this kid around in the cage over Greg Jackson? If he thinks that, he's in for a rude awakening. Yes, Jones has been dismantling people for a reason. Do I think Rashad is completely out of this fight? I really don't. The other things I think he brings to the table, I think John Jones has not really fought a wrestler like Rashad. I don't think Bader... Put it this way, there's good wrestlers, and there's good MMA wrestlers.
Exactly.
The guys who can put MMA, their stand-up and their wrestling together, that's what makes them a better wrestler than other guys.
That's
for
why
example,
I wrestled Phil Davis.
That's exactly it. Rashad might not have been a better collegiate wrestler. In fact, based on stats, he wasn't.
He was a mediocre 174-pounder. He was 48 and 34, but yet he schooled Davis.
I'm so glad that you pulled up that stat. That was pretty legit. If you have that up there right now and you're cheating, shame on you. No, I'm
No,
kidding.
that's off the top of my head. I'll say it again. 48 and 34, Michigan State, 174 pounds.
No, that's good. But here's the thing. I think Rashad brings a different element of wrestling to this fight. It's really, he puts it all together really well. Do I think, look, he's an underdog for a reason. No one's been able to figure out the John Jones machine. I would love to pick Rashad in this fight just so it's just so, like, it's not, typical, John Jones is minus 800 in this fight or minus 500. Do I think Jones is going to win? Yeah, I do. I think he's just as good in all the areas that Rashad is. But you know what? I can't count Rashad out. Just like Junior Dos Santos, we have not seen John Jones on his back. We've not seen anyone be able to hold him down on his back. We've not seen anyone smother him. Machida might have exposed him in the first round. He did win that first round against John Jones, and he outstruck him. He kept his distance. He kept circling. He kept pulling that really weird karate, unorthodox style jab.
Right.
And Rashad does not have an orthodox style boxing. Okay? He throws that jab out. He stays really low. And the other thing that John Jones has not fought against a guy like Rashad is Rashad's cardio, based on the last fight with Phil Davis. One thing I loved about Rashad is that he went the full 5 rounds. I didn't care that he didn't finish Phil. Phil is no slouch. Kid's tough. He might not be the best MMA fighter yet.
And Davis is still green. He's far from his prime.
Rashard Davis, I think he's peaking. I think he has to peak now. And even if he loses this fight, I think he'll remain in the top 3 or 4. I'd love to see him versus Dan Henderson fight one day because both those guys with their wrestling and the power is cool. I think Jones is going to win, but if anyone thinks that Rashad's just going to lay down and die or they think he's just going to get truck sticked right now, I think he might surprise some people. There's a reason why Henderson and Tito and Chuck and a lot of these guys, they all fought Rashad. They know how fast he is, how strong he is. We've never seen 2 guys who trained together for so long, have such a close relationship. Despite the hatred thing, all of a sudden spin the wheels and they're fighting now. This is really, can this open up doors for a John Fitch, Josh Koscheck fight? Who knows? Later down the line, who knows what could happen? I really wish we did see some teammates fight. It would be interesting, but I really am excited for this fight. I hope Rashad puts up a good fight. If he wins, cool. If he doesn't, then we just got to keep finding out what this phenom John Jones really is.
No, and that's what I want to find. I'm at the point now. I've been high on John Jones. After he beat Bader, I wrote a column for Sherdog that said he would beat Hua and that the biggest fight of 2012 would be a push for Anderson Silva against John Jones because I didn't see anybody, Machida, Jackson. I've been on the guy's bandwagon. I'm at the point now where I think this guy is so good that the only takeaway from his title defenses is seeing him in that, a moment of revealing, like the first round against Machida when he got clocked. The way I assess it is he lost the first round, got nailed, made it in adjustments, and completely destroyed Machida in the second round. That's what I was impressed by. But I do want to see him on his back, see him demoralized a little bit, because we really don't know. And I think it's going to be interesting in terms of Rashad's speed, and Rashad has a great game plan. He's as good a game planner as anybody in the game. That's why he's able to get the most out of his talent.
Nothing would impress me more if John Jones won this fight off his back by submission. Rashad has not been submitted.
Yes.
And if that shows, look, do I think John Jones is a complete fighter? He's a huge 205 pounder, number one. Number two, he's so strong. When he threw Bonner, I don't remember when he threw Bonner in the clinch and just tossed him. That was unreal because we've never seen anyone toss someone like that. That spinning back elbow. Look, Jones is a phenom. Do I think you're going to see him fight Anderson Silva? No, I don't, because I don't think Anderson Silva wants to lose to him, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
But if Jones destroys Rashad,
right,
okay, and then he fights Dan Henderson, and if he destroys Dan Henderson, now I'm saying if, it's not who I'm rooting for, if he destroys him, Jones needs to move up to heavyweight and give it a shot, because after that, I don't see anyone else at 205. I don't think Gustafsson would beat him. All right, I don't know if Gustafsson gets past Shogun right now or Rashad or Hendo.
That's where the talk's going to start.
And the only thing that's interesting about Hendo is he needs to make a decision really soon. Are you going? My bad, I forgot. Dan Henderson said that he would be interested in fighting Junior Dos Santos if need be.
Yes.
So just to throw that back out there, not to go off topic back and forth, John Jones, I think he wins this fight. I think it might be a lot closer than people think. I think the whole big brother syndrome might play a factor with Rashad as his mentor originally. Again, we've never seen 2 guys train together as long as they have end up fighting. So I'm excited for the fight. I hope it's not a quick one.
As far as the big brother thing, haven't had a big brother who kicked my ass for about 20 years. When I finally got skilled enough to kick his ass, He would never give me a rematch, so I got to go
Never.
against you on that one. He was always injured. I think that Jones is going to make an example out of Evans. I think he dominates him. Probably may even showboat a little bit just to torment Rashad, and I think he wins by submission in 3. But I do think your talk about there is the blowback as if Evans is blown out in this fight, I think people are going to legitimately start talking about John Jones at heavyweight. So we want to touch on a couple more fights in that card real quick. Just
Sure.
the last 2. Rory McDonald against Che Mills in a welterweight showdown. I like McDonald big. I think he's the hottest thing in the welterweight division outside of the Diaz, Condit, Ellenberger, and Hendricks thing. I think he has a huge upside. What do you think of the fight against Mills this Saturday?
I couldn't be more big on a fighter at 170 right now than Rory McDonald. I think this is a huge mistake of a fight that they're putting him in. He's got nothing to gain, everything to lose in this fight. Che Mills is no joke. The Ultimate Fighter. He didn't have the best luck. He came out. He won his last fight, destroyed. That Cope fight was a mistake from the beginning. That was really a Che Mills coming out party.
It was.
Here this is going to be McDonald's. McDonald. I don't get this fight. I really don't get this. I think that he should have been one of those guys that should have been in Ellenberger's position right now.
Right.
He's young, but this kid, look, Nate Diaz is a 155er, sure, and he's a tough guy, and Rory tossed him around like he was nothing. And I love Nate Diaz, all respect to him, but Rory made him look kind of silly in that fight.
Which nobody does to Nate Diaz.
Correct. I think Rory McDonald should have been fighting Josh Koscheck or Johnny Hendricks on the Fox card. I think he could have fought someone like a Pierre. When he beats Che Mills, I'm saying right now, McDonald's going to win this fight however the heck he wants to do it. He needs to get a bump up in competition to the top 5. I just heard John Fitch is fighting Aaron Simpson at 170.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's kind of
you know what? I get it. The UFC doesn't love John Fitch. John Fitch just got knocked out. It's finally their opportunity to get him off a main card.
Right.
Although I think Fitch is a really good guy and he knows how to win. It's really weird what they're doing, but I understand it. It's not. Look, he got knocked out. Bump him down. Rory McDonald's going to win this fight however he wants to win it. After this fight, he needs to fight a Campman, an Ellenberger, a Diego Sanchez type. He needs to get some competition. I would have loved to see him fight. Thiago Alves versus Akiyama is weird. If Jake Shields does not move to middleweight, Rory McDonald should fight Jake Shields. There you go.
No, and I think Jake Shields moving to middleweight is a huge mistake. I think it only gets rougher for him. He needs to get acclimated to 170. And I think the problem with Rory McDonald is, I interviewed Rory McDonald as trainer Firas Zahabi a few months ago, and they both, and this is before his fight against Mike Pyle or Nate Diaz, I think, and they're like, oh, we're never going to fight George St. Pierre. He's our friend, our training partner. But I think the reason they're giving him Che Mills is just to kind of buy some time and develop him, and maybe hope that it's not a situation where he's the mandatory guy, like a Carlos Condit or Nick Diaz to face him. But I'd like to see him against maybe the loser, Josh Koscheck, Johnny Hendricks.
You can. You know what, though? I think your point is there, and I was thinking it too, but I think they have plenty of time. They don't have to worry about that. Look, St. Pierre is not going to be ready until at least, November, December, January, February, whatever you want to call it.
He's on Canadian time.
Exactly, yeah. So he's got that fight. Even if he fights and beats Condit, which, who knows? Condit's very impressive. You never know with the styles how that will work out. Say GSP wins, okay? He probably won't fight again until May or June or July.
Right.
So you're already talking about over a year from now, where if Rory beats Che Mills, you know what? Whether he fights, I still think Jake Shields, because Shields just beat Akiyama. I think that would be a great fight, just because you'll really find out, does Jake belong at 170? Rory, if you can't get past Jake, what are you doing at 170? Because either one of those guys could actually are big enough to move to middleweight. And I think Shields would actually fare better at middleweight.
Really?
Reason why I say this, I know you might think I'm crazy. He does better against guys that want to go to the ground. Okay?
This is true.
At 170, you haven't seen too much of that. Even Koscheck's becoming a boxer. Hendricks won by knockout. Condit and Diaz, both guys who are known for submissions, were both standing the whole time. Right. GSP has been winning via jab to breaking people's faces. Jake Shields can go up to middleweight. He can fight a guy like Chris Weidman, who's really big on the ground game. Granted, Damian Maia is coming down to 170, but you got guys like Sonnen who go to the ground. Anderson Silva's a guy who's on the ground. I don't think Shields is going to have too much success at 170. I think at 185, he doesn't have to cut the weight, and he could actually use his jiu-jitsu to his advantage. Here, I think everyone knows why take this guy down. His stand-up is poor.
Right.
No reason to risk it on his phenomenal jiu-jitsu.
Right, and it's kind of the opposite of the Nick Diaz syndrome. Is nobody wants to take him to the ground, so he beats everybody up on the feet. that will stand with him. But I think Jake's definitely at a crossroads here. I think middleweight, he's just going to be too small for that because his striking is modest at best. I mean, it's serviceable at its very best. And at middleweight, I think those guys might be too big. But very talented guy, and it'll work its way out. And finally, the last fight on this weekend's card we want to preview, Ben Rothwell against Brendan Schaub. Schaub coming off the big knockout loss to Nogueira in Brazil. I don't see this as a particularly competitive match. I've always thought Ben Rothwell, a good guy, tough fighter, maybe a little bit limited athletically and technically. Is this basically just a setup win to get Schaub back in the winning column?
You know, Rothwell is no slouch either, and he's fought against guys, in my opinion, that in their prime that were better than Schaub. You know, Schaub is still young in his career. Do I think him getting knocked out by Nogueira was really weird? Yeah, I mean, I didn't see it. I don't know if you did. I did not see him getting knocked out by Big Nog. I really didn't. I didn't think Big Nog had the power left in him, and Schaub was a strong guy.
Yeah.
This is a fight that they are saying that Rothwell is a guy who is potentially a heavyweight gatekeeper, not within the top, get to the top 5, but to break into the top 10.
Right. He's a gatekeeper you fight before you fight Czech Congo.
Yeah, pretty much. It's gatekeeper number 2 before gatekeeper number 1.
Right.
Do I think Schaub wins this fight? Yeah, he has to. If he doesn't, the UFC is going to be as confused as I am right now. I think Schaub wins this fight by knockout. He's a very athletic guy. He's tough. He trains hard. He trains with the right people.
Yes,
he might have just got caught up in being overwhelmed by fighting a legend like Big Nog. Fighting in Brazil might have been a little too much for him at the time. It might have been too quick of a push, to be honest with you. That soon. I'm a big fan of Brendan's. I think he wins this fight by knockout or TKO or knockout, whatever you want in the first round. And Rothwell could be in for a really, really tough night. But if somehow he pulls off this win, him versus big boy Roy Nelson would be a nice little tugboat versus earthquake situation.
No, and that would be great. I mean, I think that's the thing about guys like Ben Rothwell. You know, he knows he's definitely on the bubble, especially with his recent performances. Yeah. A guy like that's dangerous. And, that's a guy that's been in the deep water. He's still, competing at this level. He's had some ups and downs in the IFL and the UFC. But he's a game guy, and he can take a shot, and he'll keep coming. So I think that's going to be an interesting fight to watch, and always fun to watch the heavyweights move along. So once again, fans, we wanted to thank you for joining us again on MMA Talking Heads in this extended edition with Ian Parker and myself. If you want to learn more about the show, you can catch our channel at youtube.com/MMA Talking Heads or on Twitter, twitter.com/MMA Talking Heads. And Ian, how can folks get hold of you?
If you guys want to get a hold of me, hit me up on Twitter at Parker Chiro, Parker Chiro. And if you're loving these matchups I'm coming up with and you think Joe Silva needs an assistant, feel free to tweet at Dana White at the UFC. Say at Parker Chiro should be Joe Silva's assistant. I'll get you guys the matchups you want to see.
All right, there you go, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon.